This happened a few weeks ago. I'm Jake, 32, and I work as an emergency room nurse. Most days, I felt like I was walking in a fog, but I needed to be strong for my mom. She was dying, and I was doing my best to care for her in our old house. It was run down, like it hadn't seen a good day in years. The peeling paint and overgrown weeds made it feel alive in a creepy way. I loathed being there, but what else could I do? I'll never forget that night. I got home late after a long, grueling shift. I hoped Mom would be asleep, cuddled up in her blankets. But when I walked in, her room was empty. The bed was made, perfectly. The open window caught my eye, and a cold breeze sent a shiver down my spine. I stepped closer. The lamp flickered beside her bed, sending shadows dancing on the wall. Something felt off. I rubbed my eyes, thinking maybe it was just exhaustion. I searched the house, wandering from room to room. It was unnaturally quiet. "Mom?" I called out. No answer. My heart raced as fear crept in, but I told myself she must have gone to the bathroom. Days passed, and everything felt strange. I went to work, but all I could think about was that night. I came home and still found her missing. I started hearing whispers from the basement. At first, I thought it was my mind playing tricks, but then I heard muffled voices. I felt an icy grip in my chest, but exhaustion made me ignore it. The basement door creaked open one evening. I felt drawn in even though I hesitated. The smell of dampness hit me as I made my way down the stairs. Boxes were piled everywhere, and I squinted in the dim light. I didn't feel my mother there, only emptiness and shadows. I found a few of her things, but there were holes in what I expected. I grabbed my phone to check for messages and saw something from my brother. It was strange, just a few words. He said he'd take care of it. I didn't understand what that meant. I felt my stomach twist. "Where are you, Mom?" I whispered. Shadows flickered, and I swore I saw something move. My heart raced. I stumbled back, questioning everything. Was my brother involved? What was going on? Then I heard it again, a whisper from the basement, almost beckoning me. "Help me." It sounded like Mom. Panic clenched my throat, but my feet moved on their own. I needed answers, but the dread felt heavy in the air. What if I found something I wouldn't be able to face? That's when I knew. Some truths are better left buried. I stood at the top of the stairs, heart pounding as the whisper echoed in my ears. It felt like the walls were closing in. For a moment, I wanted to turn back, to simply leave the house and forget everything. But that voice was pulling me closer. I had to know. I took a deep breath and stepped down, each creak of the stairs sounding like a warning. The air grew colder, and the scent of damp and decay filled my nose. As I reached the bottom, darkness swallowed the small space. I switched on my phone's flashlight. The beam cut through the shadows, landing on the many boxes stacked around me. I moved further into the basement, shining the light on the faded labels. Mom's old books, holiday decorations, stuff to donate. None of this helped me find her. I called out again. "Mom?" Anxiety rippled through me. And then I froze. There was something tucked away in the corner, partially hidden behind an old wardrobe. It didn't belong there. My hands trembled as I tiptoed towards it, pushing aside cobwebs and remnants of long-forgotten memories. As the light hit the object, I gasped. It was a photo. My mother, young and vibrant, holding a baby in her arms. I squinted, recognizing the smile as her own. But the baby wasn't me. I felt my heart drop. I had seen this before in a family album, a photo I had never fully understood. Why didn't I remember this? What haunted me more than the photo was the notebook next to it. It was tattered, the pages yellowing. Nervously, I picked it up. I opened it, and my blood ran cold. The writing was in my mother's handwriting, and as I scanned the pages, dread sank deeper into my gut. She had been documenting her fears about my brother, about secrets he had kept, and about something he had done. "Jake needs to stay away. He can't know," one line read. I felt dizzy. Why hadn't I noticed the signs? What was Mom trying to protect me from? The basement felt like it was closing in as I read more. Names I didn't recognize, places I'd never heard of, shadows of a life I never knew. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from above ground. I jumped, fear flooding my senses. "What was that?" I whispered, and the realization hit me. I was not alone. Someone had entered the house. I wanted to run, but I was rooted to the spot. The whispers grew louder now, calling for me, pleading with desperation. What were they trying to say? I could feel my pulse racing, the urge to hide mixing with the need to confront whoever had broken in. Then I heard footsteps, heavy and deliberate. I had to decide quickly. Should I hide or confront? If I stayed here, I risked being discovered. But if I went upstairs, what would I face? I clenched the notebook tighter. It had to hold the keys to my mother's secrets. And then everything went dark. My heartbeat echoed in my ears as I felt the flickering light of my phone go out, leaving me in a world of shadows. I stood in complete darkness, heart racing. I pressed the power button on my phone desperately, but the screen remained black. Panic clotted me. The whispers had faded into silence, smothered by the overwhelming unknown surrounding me. I couldn't stay here. The footsteps above were getting closer. With trembling hands, I pushed myself off the wall and inched toward the staircase. I was blind now, but I had an instinct for where the stairs lay. I felt my way along the damp walls, each cold touch sending chills down my spine. My breath quickened as I crept through the basement, wishing for just a hint of direction. Suddenly, another crash echoed from above, shattering the silence. I pressed my back against the wall, barely breathing. Whoever was in the house sounded restless, moving further around the rooms. I imagined their face, etched with tension. Why were they here? What did they want? I made it to the base of the steps and cautiously put my foot on the first step. The creak of the wood seemed deafening in the quiet, and I froze again, waiting to hear a reaction. The footsteps continued, thudding heavily on the floorboards above me. Whoever it was definitely searching for something. "Mom?" I whispered, but the call sounded weak, even to my own ears. No response came. I steadied myself and took another step up. I had to find her. I had to get out. As I climbed, the darkness pressed in on me, heavy like a wet blanket. Midway up, I stumbled slightly, my foot catching on an unseen object. I grasped the railing with one hand and reached out with my flashlight into the void. The beam flickered to life again, illuminating the narrow staircase. My heart pounded in relief, but I had no time to celebrate. Hasty footsteps, followed by a loud bang, came from the room above. I hesitated. I was about to make a run for the door at the top of the stairs when I remembered the notebook. The pages held truths that I couldn't leave behind. I needed answers. I glanced back from where I'd come and wondered if I could spare another moment to dive back into the basement. It felt too risky. I could feel urgency pressing down on me, crushing my resolve. Think, I whispered to myself, weighing my options. Just then, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I paused, fingers brushing against the screen. Someone had messaged me. My heart raced as I fished it out and opened the message, hopeful for escape. The words on the screen sent a chill down my spine. "Where are you? He's looking for you." That was it. I couldn't ignore it. Whoever was above, I was their target. I rushed toward the top of the stairs, adrenaline flooding my veins. I reached the last step, eyes darting as I prepared to burst through the door. Then I heard it, a voice, deep and familiar. It echoed loudly through the silence. "You can't hide from me." I rose again, dread creeping in like an unwanted visitor. I recognized that voice. It was Jake. I turned back, my heart sinking. I was trapped between two terrible choices: confront my brother, or retreat into the shadows and risk everything. I took a deep breath, ready to face what lay ahead. I hesitated, the tension hanging in the air thicker than before. Jake's tone was different, harsher, the kind of voice that signals danger. I couldn't just stand there and wait. He would find me if I did. I pushed through the door, stepping into the dimly lit hallway. My intuition told me to move fast, to find a place to hide. There was a moth-eaten couch in the living room just ahead.
It was as good as any. I could slip down behind it and listen for Jake's next move. I sank down, heart pounding against my ribs. The whispers in my head screamed at me to run, but I had to stay put, at least for a moment. I could hear him pacing now, back and forth, each step certain and heavy. It felt like the walls were closing in. "Just tell me where you are," Jake shouted. "You can't avoid this forever." I pressed my hands to my mouth, stifling a whimper. I had no idea what this meant, but I had a sinking feeling that it involved a twisted family secret, or possibly something worse. My mind raced, recalling all the times Jake had been protective, too protective. And then there was the night things changed. The night truth became an aching wound. I had buried it deep, but now it clawed its way back to the surface. I peeked round the edge of the couch, scanning the room for any sign of him. The flickering light from a nearby lamp provided just enough illumination to catch the glimpse of a familiar shadow moving. My breath caught. His back was turned, but it wouldn't take long for him to notice the bolt from the blue. Just then, a loud crash came from the kitchen. My heart stuttered. Jake spun around, tense and focused. "Mom?" he called out, panic lacing his voice. Was she okay? What if she needed me? I had to get to her. I couldn't just stay hidden. It would eat away at me. I gripped the edge of the couch, my palms sweaty. I was moving before I overthought it. I dashed towards the kitchen, dodging debris and broken furniture that had been packed into the small space. The soft glow of a light bulb overhead revealed a shattered vase on the floor. I barely noticed it as I dashed past. From behind me, I heard Jake again. "Stop! You can't run from me!" My feet weren't fast enough, and fear charged through me like electricity. I sprinted into the kitchen, my eyes darting for any sign of warmth. The air was cold, and I could hear the faint sound of my mother's labored breathing. I pushed through to find her slumped against the counter. "Mom!" I gasped, rushing to her side. But then, something caught my eye, a glint under the fridge. I bent down to see what it was, and as I reached for it, everything went dark. Lights flickered, then died, plunging the kitchen into a suffocating blackness. The grip of terror twisted my stomach. I was now truly trapped. "Jess!" Jake's voice came from the doorway, sharper now. "Where are you? What have you found?" Just as panic threatened to drown me whole, I felt my fingers brush against cool metal. I pulled it out, revealing a small silver key. Suddenly, I knew I wasn't just hiding anymore. Now, I had a plan. The key felt heavy in my hand, but I couldn't dwell on its significance. I had to make a decision. Jake was closing in, and hiding would only give him the advantage. The key could open something, but what? My mother? A secret? "Jess!" he shouted again, and fear ripped through me.
I glanced at Mom, hoping she would stir, but she remained still. I couldn't leave her. I needed to protect her. I could be brave just for a moment longer. The kitchen door creaked as Jake stepped inside, the dim light flickering back to life. Shadows danced across the walls. His eyes searched, frantic and wild. "I know you're here." I ducked behind the fridge and pressed myself against the cold metal. My heart raced, each beat a countdown. Then, without warning, a loud thud echoed from upstairs. I winced. Had he left the kitchen? The noise was too much. I had to move. I crouched down low, my knuckles pressing against the floor. I could barely breathe. "Mom, just wake up. We need to find her." Jake's voice cracked. I heard footsteps shift. He was torn between searching for me and attending to her. That's when I took a chance. I slipped out from behind the fridge and dashed toward the back door. The key was still in my grip. I had to see where it fit. There was a door in the basement that had always been locked. Maybe that was it. I could hear Jake behind me, murmuring to himself, torn between desperation and anger. "You're going to regret this, Jess." I rushed to the staircase, almost tripping on the last step. The lumber creaked beneath me, and I steadied myself against the wall. The basement door loomed at the end of the hallway, nearly hidden in the shadows. I could hear the soft whir of the furnace and smell the damp earth. Suddenly, the floorboards creaked. Jake's footsteps were getting closer. "I'm coming for you." He sounded furious. With a shaking hand, I reached the basement door. It looked old, the wood splintered, but I saw a keyhole glinting. I plunged the key in, heart racing. Would it fit? I turned it, holding my breath. It clicked. Before I could revel in my small victory, I swung the door open. A rush of cold air greeted me, swirling like a ghost. My pulse quickened. The darkness inside was thick. In the back of my mind, I registered Jake's furious shout. He burst into the hallway, but I didn't care anymore. I stepped into the basement, ready to face whatever lay inside, hoping it would give me the answers I desperately needed. The door slammed shut behind me. I was in the black now, with only the faint sound of Jake's footsteps receding. What had I just walked into? My instincts screamed danger, but I couldn't turn back now. I had to know. And then, as I took a step further, I heard a whisper. "Help me." I froze. Someone, or something, was down there with me. I stood frozen, the whisper echoing around me like a haunting lullaby. "Help me." It was faint, fragile, but it commanded my attention. My instincts screamed to turn back, but I took a hesitant step forward, compelled by a desperate curiosity. I strained my ears to catch more. "Please." The voice sounded raspy, filled with pain, or perhaps fear. It had a familiarity that I couldn't quite place. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaky. "Who's there?" Silence blinked back at me, thick and unsettling. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe it was just the wind playing tricks. A soft scrape brought my attention back to the darkness. I fumbled for my phone, praying the small light would be enough. I turned it on, the dim beam barely cutting through the shadows. The basement stretched away from me, cobwebs hanging like curtains over the walls, old boxes piled haphazardly in corners. Then I saw it, a figure huddled in the farthest corner. My heart dropped. "Is someone there?" I asked again, stepping carefully. "Help!" It was the same voice, now clearer. It came from the darkness. The figure shifted, and instinctively I took a step back. But something about that voice, something about the way it trembled with desperation, pulled me closer. "Who are you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady despite the growing dread. The figure moved into the light from my phone, a woman, disheveled and pale, her hair matted and clothes torn. My pulse quickened. Her eyes were wide and glassy, but filled with a flicker of recognition. "Jess," she whispered, as if my name was a lifeline tossed in turbulent waters. "Do I know you?" I was terrified and confused. "Not yet, but I'm your sister," she said. "I'm trapped. You have to help me." "Sister," I shook my head. I had never even known I had one. "No, that's not possible. My mom." "Mom needs you," she interrupted, her voice rising in urgency. "You have to get me out of here before he comes back." A chill crept down my spine. "Who? Is Jake with you?" "No, not him. Someone worse. Someone who won't hesitate to hurt you too." My breath caught in my throat. I could feel the walls closing in. I glanced back at the door, meaning to escape, but the thought of leaving her there, of what would happen if I did, stopped me cold. "What do you mean?" I asked, stepping closer. She was silent for a moment, eyes darting as though listening for footsteps. "It's a long story, but you need to trust me. I can explain everything." Before I could respond, I heard a faint sound from above, a heavy, deliberate footfall, echoing through the house. Panic surged through me. "It's him." The figure's expression shifted. "You have to unlock these chains." Chains. I hadn't seen any, but the urgency in her voice pushed me to action. "Where?" "In the dark, behind the boxes. Hurry." As I rushed toward the shadows, I felt the weight of time slipping away. Whatever I found in this basement, it had to be unlocked before Jake, or whoever else was after me, found us. I shoved boxes aside, frantically searching, heart hammering against my ribs. That's when my fingers brushed against cold metal. I pulled it out and felt the distinct shape of a lock. I had found it. But how to get it off? Then I noticed chains wrapped around the figure, clanking softly with every movement. My hands trembled as I grasped the lock, desperately trying to remember anything I'd seen before. And as I worked, I heard the footsteps getting closer. Time stopped. I needed to be quick. "Do you trust me?" I asked, glancing back at her. "Yes," she urged. Then everything went dark. The light from my phone flickered, sputtered, and died. My heart sank as the phone screen went blank. Panic tightened its grip around me. I tried shaking the device, hoping it would spring back to life, but nothing happened. "Hold on!" I shouted into the darkness, frustration bubbling up inside me. I had to get that lock off, and I needed more light. I searched my pockets for anything I could use, a lighter, a flashlight, something. All I had was my phone and the suffocating blackness surrounding me. "Jess, please hurry." My sister's voice broke through the silence, trembling and urgent. "He'll be here any second." I felt my way back to where I'd seen her, the cool, damp air pressing in. The chains clinked softly as she moved, and I could barely make out her outline in the shadows. "Just a little longer," I whispered, though I was just as terrified as she was. I worked frantically to find the right mechanism for the lock, my fingers shaking as they searched for the keyhole. "I don't see a key," I said. "How is it even locked?" "It's a special lock. Just hang on," she urged again, the fear in her voice cracking. Then, through the thick silence, I heard it, a door creaking open above us. My breath caught. The footsteps had stopped, and I could sense someone in the house. "Jess, stay quiet," I instructed, forcing my voice down to a whisper. I pressed my back against the wall, hoping the dimness would conceal us. I could hear muffled noises from above, a clatter, then a low voice, raspy and menacing. "I know you're down there, Jess. Game over." My stomach twisted. It was him. I felt a surge of heat and fear. I had to work faster. "I can't do this without light," I murmured, despair creeping in. Just then, I felt something brush against my wrist. A piece of cloth. I lifted it and realized it was a torn sleeve, frayed at the edges. "What did you find?" Jess whispered, her tone barely concealing her terror. "It's just cloth." I trailed off, suddenly struck by inspiration. "Can you see anything? Is there a way to break the chains?"
Her breath quickened. There's a latch on the side, but I can't reach it. I pressed my body into the corner of the basement, straining to bring my hands closer to her. Turn around. I might be able to get it if you can guide me. The floor creaked again as I heard the unmistakable sound of a footstep on the stairs. My heart raced as I positioned my hands around the chains. They felt rough and imposing, but if I could just find the latch. Then, suddenly, a light pierced through the darkness, a beam from above. It sliced through the basement, illuminating Jess and the chains binding her. I squinted against the brightness, feeling the sweat trickle down my back. No, the boys called from upstairs. You can't help her.
Before I could react, the light bobbed down the stairs like a spotlight, and panic took over. Jess squeezed my hand. You have to hurry. He's coming. I could see it now. The latch. My fingers flew, desperate to release her. The footsteps echoed through my ears, each thud a countdown. Almost there, I gasped, fear driving my movements. Then the beam of light stopped. I turned to see the silhouette of a man, tall and imposing at the foot of the stairs. My breath caught. He was here. Let her go, I shouted, throat tightening as dread washed over me. But he smiled, a chilling grin. Too late for that, Jess. Time's up. And in that moment, I realized the truth, that I had no idea what I was really up against. The room froze, a heavy silence stretching between me and the figure in the doorway. I narrowed my eyes, trying to make sense of the scene. The man's grin widened as he took a step forward, the light illuminating the glint of something metallic in his hand. Get away from her, I barked, my voice sounding steadier than I felt. Jess still squirmed against the chains, her breathing shallow and fast. Oh, we're just getting started, he said, his voice smooth, a sickening contrast to the situation. You think you can save her? You have no idea what you're dealing with. As he advanced, I pushed my body forward, pressing against the chains that bound Jess, the cool metal biting into my arms. I needed to act fast. My eyes darted around the basement, searching for anything that could give me an advantage. Please, just let her go, I shouted, desperation creeping into my voice. His amusement deepened, the glimmer in his eyes chilling. You don't get it. She's mine now. He flicked the light off, plunging us back into darkness. I could still hear Jess's frantic breaths, the chains rattling as she struggled. Can you get to the latch? I asked, my hands still probing the chains. I'm trying. I can't see anything, she gasped. I cursed under my breath. Then I remembered the cloth. Can you feel it? That sleeve I found? If I can twist it around the lock, maybe? Suddenly, I heard shuffling footsteps creeping down the stairs, the crunch of gravel outside. I stiffened. The man was not alone. Jess, listen to me, I whispered urgently. You need to trust me. Focus on the latch. I'm going to create a distraction. Be careful, she hissed, the panic lacing her words. The footsteps grew louder, echoing against the walls of the basement. I needed to draw their attention away from her. I grabbed the sleeve and clutched it tightly in my hand, ready to act. Hey, I shouted into the dark. Over here. You want me? Come and get me. A low chuckle echoed from the upper floor. Oh, someone has some fight left, but it won't matter. I could feel my heart pounding in my ears. The man took another step closer. I could hear his breath, steady and calm, as if he was enjoying this game.
My eyes began to adjust to the dark, and I could see Jess straining against the chains, her wide eyes lit with fear. Time's up, little girl, the voice called from above. Let's play. Without thinking, I lunged towards the staircase, shouting loudly to keep his focus on me. The moment I moved away from Jess, I felt a surge of panic. I needed to keep him there, away from her. But then something slipped from my hands into the darkness. No! I cried out as I felt the cloth hit the ground, my last hope plummeting into oblivion. The man paused, intrigued by the movement, and I held my breath. That's when I saw it, a flash of silver glinting on the floor near Jess. My heart raced. I wasn't sure what it was, but I had to hope it was something I could use to break her free. I had a split-second decision to make. Stay here and keep the man distracted, or rush back to help my sister. Knowing Jess was counting on me pushed me forward. Hold on, Jess, I shouted as I turned back toward her, readiness and fear colliding inside me. But as I stepped back, everything went dark again. The beam of light cut off, and the basement was swallowed in complete silence. A cold dread settled in my stomach, and I knew that whatever was coming next would change everything. I blinked, trying to adjust to the darkness.
I could hear nothing but the fading echo of my own voice. My stomach twisted, and chills raced up my spine. The silence was deafening and suffocating. I instinctively reached for the wall beside me, grounding myself as I took a cautious step back toward Jess. "Jess?" I whispered, my throat tight. No answer came, only stillness. Panic bubbled inside me. I could not get lost in this darkness, not now. Then, out of the gloom, I heard it, the faint sound of metal scraping against the concrete. It was subtle, but it shot adrenaline through my veins. "Jess," I called again, this time louder, hoping she would respond. "Here," she finally replied, her voice trembling. "Hold on, I'm coming," I said, straining to listen for anything more. My hands fumbled along the rough walls, searching for anything to guide me. I needed to find that silver object I had seen, and I needed to find it fast. I stumbled forward, biting back the urge to scream in frustration. The floor felt damp and cold beneath my feet. My eyes remained glued to the ground as I searched for the glint of silver. And then, in the distance, I caught a flash again. Hope flickered inside me, and I scrambled forward, heart pounding with every step. My fingers brushed against a cool metallic surface. I grasped it tightly and lifted it into the air. A key. That's when I heard it, a small creak upstairs, followed by a low laugh. "You think hiding in the dark will save you?" the voice mocked, echoing ominously down the stairs. I froze, clutching the key tightly in my hand, my breath caught in my throat. "Jess, I found something," I whispered urgently, hoping I sounded more confident than I felt.
"Is it—" she began, but her voice was cut short by another rustle from above. My heart raced with uncertainty. I didn't want to dwell on what could happen if he found us alone down here. "Keep working on the latch," I urged her, glancing once more toward the staircase. The hideous laugh curled around me like smoke.
"Why don't you come up and play with me?"
he taunted, drawing things out as though enjoying my fear.
"I promise it'll be fun."
"Leave her alone," I shouted back, surprising myself with the volume. I clenched the key harder, feeling the sharp edges dig into my palm. In that moment, a sudden thought crossed my mind. I wasn't sure how strong the chains were, but maybe Jess could use the key if she managed to reach it. It was a desperate gamble, but I had to try. "Jess, I'm going to throw this to you," I whispered, bracing myself for her reaction. "Get ready to catch it." "I'm ready," she called back, a hint of determination fighting through her fear. I lifted the key and aimed for Jess, praying she had enough light to see it. I flung it into the dark, my heart leaping as I heard it clatter against the floor. "Did you get it?" I yelled, holding my breath. "I think so." Jess's voice wavered, a mix of hope and anxiety. "Good. Just focus on the latch." But as soon as the words left my mouth, a loud crash echoed from above, shaking the room. It felt like a warning. "I told you, you can't hide forever," the voice rasped. Without waiting to catch my breath, I darted toward where Jess was chained, my heart screaming for her to be quick. The tension in the air thickened, and I felt the weight of the imminent danger closing in on us. Seconds felt like hours. "Jess," I hissed, "please, hurry." That's when I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps descending the staircase, each step like a drumbeat of doom. I stood frozen, straining to hear anything over the pounding of my heart. As the footsteps grew louder, my mind raced, driven by one overwhelming urge, to protect Jess, to free her. The chains still clanged softly as she fumbled with the latch, urgency filling the air. "Jess, can you do it?" I whispered, my voice shaky. "Can you unlock it?" I can't see," she stammered. "I'm trying, but it's so dark." A flicker of movement caught my eye, the faintest glimmer from the metal I'd thrown earlier. "Just focus," I urged. "Feel for the lock. You have to find it." Suddenly, the shadow of the figure loomed behind the open basement door. "I see you," he cheered, stepping into the light with a twisted smile. My breath caught as I leaned in closer to Jess. "Get ready. If you can unlock it, we run together." "I'm close. I can feel the latch," she replied, a newfound resolve in her voice. Time stopped as the man stepped forward, his face breaking into a malevolent grin as he caught me still. "You think you can escape?" He glared at me, the hate seeping from his eyes. "Just don't look away."
I shouted, echoing my own fear as I prepared to run the moment Jess was free. I could see her working with frantic fingers, the tension palpable in the air, thick as smoke. With a swift motion, I threw myself sideways, creating a new target for him. "Hey, get away from her!" I yelled, forcing the words from my throat, desperate to distract him as he lunged toward me. "No, Jake, don't!" Jess cried, her urgency mingling with dread. But it was too late. I braced myself for the impact, but it never came. Instead, I heard a sharp click, then a gasp from Jess. "I got it!" she shouted. "Free!" I sprinted to her side. Before I could process what was happening, she scrambled to her feet, her grip tight on the key and fear driving her. "Let's go," I urged, grasping her hand. But we were still inside the basement. The darkness closed in around us like a heavy fog. The man let out a feral snarl, his face contorting with rage. "You think you can run?" he spat. But the moment was ours. We bolted past him, charging for the stairs. Adrenaline surged through me as we grasped the door handle, but just as I flung it open, the unmistakable sound of his footsteps followed us. "Go, go, go!" I screamed. We raced up the steps and into the hallway, fear propelling us forward. The kitchen was just ahead, and the front door loomed, a beacon of hope. I could feel the heat of his anger at our backs. Every second felt like an eternity. As we neared the suite, a loud crash behind us sent chills racing down my spine. He's right behind us, I thought, the electric thrill of fear sending us hurtling towards the door. The knob was cold against my palm as I twisted it frantically. "Together!" Jess shouted, and we pushed through the door, bursting into the night air. But then, the darkness beckoned behind us, a sinister laugh echoing in the distance. I turned back to see the figure standing in the doorway, backlit by the light inside, his face obscured. "Run!" I hollered, dragging Jess with me down the porch and onto the street. We dashed, fueled by panic and adrenaline. The chill of the night air bit at our skin, but we kept moving, not looking back. We kept running until our lungs burned and our feet ached, the house fading into the distance. Finally, we came to a stop at a park across the street, panting and gasping for breath. "We escaped," I panted, trying to convince myself it was real. "We're okay now." Jess's eyes were wide, fear still taking hold. "For now," she managed, her hands trembling. "But what does he know? Who is he?" I shook my head, glancing back toward the house that still loomed in the shadows. Questions buzzed in my mind. "We need to figure this out," I said, my voice a low murmur. "We can't let him find us." "How can we?" she asked, searching my face for answers, but the weight of uncertainty pressed down on us. I didn't know what he was capable of. Was he just a man, or was there something more sinister hidden in the shadows? And for the first time in my life, I felt that my reality may bend beneath an unexplainable force, one that rested deep within our family's secrets and the darkness that had woven through our past. I moved toward my sister, and though I wanted to draw comfort from her presence, a lingering dread held me back. The questions remained, unanswered. What would the future hold for us? Would we ever truly be free? "I don't know," I said finally, looking up at the stars that twinkled above, a stark contrast to the encroaching darkness still lurking in my mind. Some truths, I knew, remained buried.